It depends on what you're applying for. Of course, direct care staff, you have to be 21. Once you're 21 or older, I look for somebody who is interested in working with people, committed to helping people, who has an open mind, who's willing to work with folks who've had very difficult history, very difficult past, and are sometimes very difficult to work with on a day-to-day basis, but are up for the challenge. Somebody who's compassionate and caring, but also understands that mental illness is an illness the same as cancer or diabetes.
A degree of some sort?
You know, the state requires degrees in certain positions.
Mm-hmm.
Our direct care staff, our technicians is what we call them, are required to have 2 years of education in a human service field or 2 years of experience, or both, depending on the program. I always go for the 2 or 2 rule because it's hard to find somebody who's had 2 and 2. But if you've had psychology for 2 years, if you've had human services, if you've had family, you know, if you're in a family therapy track, or you know, any sociology, anything like that, I'm willing to consider that human services. We're always looking for folks who are willing to volunteer. We don't have a lot of, we're not an interesting place to volunteer, but because of the regulations that bind us to anonymity for our consumers, we don't often place volunteers in our residential programs, but our outpatient program, we always need clerical support. We always need somebody who's willing to get their knees dirty and help file, and you know, our kitchen is always looking for volunteers who are willing to chop and stir and things like that. So yeah, absolutely. We do undergrad and postgrad internships. Undergrad internship kind of depends on your coursework, your field of study, the requirements of the course, and those would generally be in sort of a technician role in one of our residential programs. So you would be doing direct care staff work on sort of a volunteer basis, but you really get your hands sort of in the mix of understanding what a treatment facility can do for folks. Postgrad, we work with a lot of counseling students who are doing their counseling internship. We love to place counseling students. And I've just started in the last year for undergrads and postgrads a case management internship. You know, the thing about human services is you don't have to be a counselor to affect change. You know, really the folks who do the hardest work, in my opinion, are our case managers, the folks who are in the homes, working with the clients, helping them find jobs, getting them food baskets, getting them clothes, you know, reminding them to take their meds, working with them day in and day out on those treatment goals. And I think case management is really tough but super rewarding. And so someone with a bachelor's level education is a prime candidate to be a case manager at Centerpointe. And if that's something that interests you at all, talk to me about doing an internship. I'd love to place you with a case manager, so you could get to know what that field really looks like. It's extremely difficult but extremely rewarding. And we have often had undergrad interns who who turned 21 after their internship and immediately were placed into a position because they were, they had such a great experience and learned so much, and it's such a value to us to have people who are interested and engaged in our agency work and who want to be part of that. So we hire a lot of our counseling interns, and we actually have a young woman who was a Wesleyan student who did a case management intern who has converted into a case manager in our residential program now. So after coming on as a volunteer and then getting hired as a technician and graduating from college and then moving into a case management position. So we like to grow our own, so to speak.